Hi, welcome to How to Repair. Have you got a Beko-manufactured cooker? They make cookers for all these brands that you can see on the screen here. In this video, we're going to be discussing the grill element and how it works in conjunction with the programs on your actual oven. The grill element may be used in many different functions when cooking. You may be using a convection oven which uses the base element and the grill element, or you may be using a fan oven setting which uses the grill element as well. Your cooker may have a fault where it is tripping the electricity supply on some programs, but not on other programs. The grill element is a dual element on these cookers, and it is part number 262480067. This is an 1100 watt on the inner circuit and 1100 watt on the outer circuit. The outer circuit may be used in conjunction with other programs on the actual selector switch or on the circuit board if you have a more modern type of the machine. The cooker actually has to come out of situ to be able to access the grill element because the screws that attach to the element are on the rear of the machine. This video will go through all the common problems that can occur, showing you how to diagnose the problem with the element and also test the element correctly, and also show you how to replace the grill element. But the first thing we need to do is remove the cooker from situ, but this is time-stamped, so if you know how to do this, you can jump through to the next point on the video. If you have a freestanding appliance, it's easy to work on, but when you have a double oven like this one or a single oven like this one, we're going to need to take it out the housing first to actually work on the appliance. Okay, the first thing that needs to be done, you need to isolate the electricity at the fuse board because the plug for this appliance may be behind it or in an adjacent cupboard. You may have it hardwired as well, and this needs to be dealt with before we lift the cooker out of situ. When accessing the fuse board, you may have a single oven or a double oven. This is a 16 amp supply, this is a 32 amp supply, or you have the main switch. Turning these off, but if in doubt, you can always turn the main power to the property. Now that you've disconnected the electricity, it is safe for you to actually start removing the oven. Now what we need to do here now is remove the actual door, not only for the purpose of lightening the load on the appliance, but also to make sure that no damage occurs to the glass when we actually take the oven out of situ. To remove the oven door is quite simple. Just open it up. On the early models of Beko machine, there will be some catches on either side that you need to bend over to actually take the whole hinge out of the frame. But on the more modern cookers, there are a couple of catches that we need to press down. And just pressing these catches down on each side, and I'll put an exploded view of this in the side here, you will then be able to actually release the two pins on the door. Take the door up to its natural position, and then you will be able to slide it away. Now we're able to remove the interior of the oven. Now we're ready to take the cooker out, but on double ovens you will need a table, and I suggest putting a towel on top of it, and you may need two people to actually lift the cooker to get it out. With a single oven, I just use a small crate. Putting this down, we are then able to remove the two screws that hold the actual cooker to the chassis of the cabinet. On double ovens, there may be up to 6 screws. Now that you've removed all the screws, we're ready to lift the cooker out. Putting your hand inside the oven, carefully lift the oven over and slide it out, dropping it down onto the case. Now, if you are using a larger oven, you will need to actually have some help doing this. We're now able to turn this around to the side, making sure that you're not pulling the cable too hard. Then we'll be ready to disconnect the appliance from the electricity. If your oven is plugged in, you'll now be able to remove the plug. But if it is hardwired in, we have to undo the electrical connection. You may even have an isolation socket behind the cooker. To remove, just put a small screwdriver in, and there's 2 clips on this that you need to put your screwdriver in just to lift up. But to double check everything, do go across the live and the neutral connection to check that there is no electricity present. As there is no electricity present, it's safe to undo. Undoing the retaining clip, move that away. Now we can undo the live, the neutral, and the earth. The cable can now be pulled out and put safe. Okay, now you've got the cooker out of situ and you've learned how to take the door off, because it does make it much easier for working on the appliance. We need to actually remove this top panel, which is 2 screws on either side, and then at the rear of the appliance we've got 3 screws on the top and multiple down the side. It will vary from model to model. The top panel will come away, but be careful of the edges, they are sharp. On some of the Beko cookers, the panel will hinge away, giving you access to the appliance. Okay, the first test that we're going to do is just a straightforward continuity reading and an ohms reading on the element to make sure that it has a good circuit. When it comes to actually elements tripping the electricity supply, we're going to have to use a separate instrument, which I'll show you in a minute. The cooker is controlled via the selector switch and the thermostat. The thermostat is what is there to control the element coming on and off. The selector switch is to set up which elements are in use for the specific program that you're cooking on. People do not use the selector switch and thermostat correctly, and it's not your fault. Manufacturers, for some unknown reason, do not print in their manuals correctly the way that you should be operating the cooker. At no point should you ever turn the selector switch with the thermostat set to a temperature. Let me explain. These are contacts. Now, on a selector switch type machine, which this is, the contacts are made for which appropriate elements or fan motor or other devices come on and are going to be used in conjunction with the thermostat. If the thermostat is on and you are flicking these contacts around, because an element is high wattage, meaning it's drawing a large amount of ampage, the fan oven element may be up to 10 amps, and also the grill element up to 10 amps. And that is a lot of load. And these contacts on the selector switch are not designed for them flicking on and off. The contacts inside the thermostat are designed for that purpose. This is why a thermostat cycles and it comes on and off, opening and shutting the points at the required temperature. So if you want to prolong the life of your cooker, use these things correctly. Now, when it comes to testing the element, the first thing we need to do is always take a photograph before taking any wires off. Just unplug the element on one side. This is a dual circuit, meaning that the outer 2 contacts are the outer element, the inner 2 contacts, the inner element. Now, setting the meter up onto continuity, you could do a basic test across the element. And if you've got continuity, you know the element is good. But this doesn't actually tell you what the wattage is. If you actually set the meter to ohms on the lowest resistance level there, which I've set to 200, we are going to be able to use Ohm's law to work out the wattage. Now, Ohm's law is like a triangle. Basically, you have 3 measurements. If you have any of the 2 measurements, you will be able to work out the third. So knowing that the voltage on this cooker is 240 volt, we are able to do an ohms reading. And across the outer circuit here, we have an ohms reading of 54. With the voltage, that would give us an equation of 1100 watts. On the inner element, we can also do a test, and we've got 52.5. This will be slight variation between the two, but this is basically telling us that the circuit on the outer and inner element is both approximately 1100 watts. And that is basically how to test the element when it comes to a circuit. Okay, when it comes to testing elements for earth, the only way to test them properly is with an installation tester. An installation tester is an expensive piece of equipment, and I do not expect you to own this at home. I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'm also going to show you a quick way that you will be able to test your cooker without one of these. Now, this measures the element or the appliance, whatever you're testing, for earth leakage. And it basically simulates a load going through the element by pumping high voltage in and actually testing whether there is any leakage going to earth. So we'll first test the outer circuit, and I've got to connect the earth up to the system as well, and also the crocodile clip to earth as well. And I'm going to do a class 1 test, and let me zoom in for you here. Doing a class 1 test, we'll basically do an earth count, insulation test and a subleak test on the actual element. And if it passes all three, then that circuit is good, but we will have to test the inner circuit. So disconnecting the outer circuit, connecting the inner circuit, I would rerun the test. And it goes through the tests again, and you will see slight variation between the inner and outer circuit. And that is basically telling me as an engineer that element is in perfect condition. If you had an earth leakage problem at home, the only way to ascertain whether you have a problem with the grill element is to disconnect all the wires on the element, make sure you tape them up, then reconnect the electricity to the cooker and do some tests on different cooking functions. If it doesn't trip the electricity, then you can presume that your element was faulty and replace it. Okay, if you've tested the element and the element is all perfect, but your grill is still not working, you may have a problem with the selector switch. And the only way of actually checking this really is visually inspecting the contacts or the connections on the back. These are prone to wearing, especially when I explained to you earlier about the way that people are misusing these. And as I said, it's not your fault necessarily, but basically these contacts can burn and also cause damage to the actual cam in the middle, and also the actual terminal connections can all burn. But the way of quickly testing this, and I'm going to show you the cooker working under load, and we can actually see the wattage and measure the electrical side as well. So turning the cooker back on, and you should only be doing this if you're competent with electrics. I've got to set the timer up to manual. 1 second. And turning the grill on, we can see on the actual meter here that the actual appliance is drawing 2,200 watts of power. As I said, the grill is 1,100 each circuit. Now, using the multimeter set onto 240 volts, and I'll carefully put that there for you. Measuring across the outer circuit, we should have 240 volt. Measuring across the inner circuit, we should have 240 volt. If you do not have any voltage, then you can presume that you have a problem with one of the contacts, either on the selector switch. It's possible that you may have a problem with the thermostat, because if I turn the thermostat off, of course, this will disconnect on the actual grill as well. As you can see here, the voltage now, or the wattage, has dropped down to 39 watts, which is only the cooling fan that's running. Okay, when it comes to replacing the element, of course, disconnect the power again, take off all the terminals, do take a photograph of where the wiring came from, placing that down. Now, you can either carefully go in here through the insulation, and I'll zoom in for you here. If you look closely in here, you can see screws. Just undo these screws, and there are 3 on this cooker. Then carefully turn the cooker around. Okay, now we've actually got the cooker round. I'm turning a torch on so you can see. There are 2 screws at the top here, and there's also the thermostat at the back. You will need to just bring this down slightly so the bracket clears the thermostat. And I'm just pushing that down. You don't want to damage this in any way, because that's what reads the temperature. There are 2 screws at the top here. Now, as I said, if you have an old cooker, sometimes these screws can not only be corroded, but the steel the screw goes into can corrode over a period of time. And if you find the screws are loose, you would be able to replace them with slightly larger screws. That's only in extreme circumstances. Once you've dropped the element down, carefully slide it out, making sure not to touch the thermostat probe, and the element will come away. To replace it, it's straightforward and easy. Just follow the process in reverse to fit the new element. Again, making sure that you don't catch the probe there, putting the element up, and then you'll be able to replace the 2 screws. reconnect up the electrics. And there we go. I hope this video helped you fix your cooker or oven. Remember, if you have any further questions, I will need your brand, your model number, and a detailed description of the fault. Or you could upload a video to YouTube and send us the link. You can either use the comments below or the contact us page at the website, and the link is in the description below. And if you do need any parts for your cooker or oven, remember some parts are serial number dependent, so make sure you have all the relevant information before ordering the parts. Thank you very much indeed for watching this video. If we really helped you, you can always click on the Bipolar Beer page to support the website, as that's what keeps us going and able to make these videos for you. Thank you very much indeed for watching.